Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me once again for another Fuchsia Labmic book talk on the expanded universe of Star Wars. So excited to be with you here again, and we are going to get right into this book talk, so let's go. We are talking about the courtship of Princess Leia. This is the second book in the post-Jedi Expanded Universe timeline, and it was published April 1st, 1994. No fooling. Written by Dave Wolverton. This is a really interesting book. I find it interesting that so many people not only disregard this book, but seem to really despise this book. To be fair, it's not the best, most well-written book. I'll give people that, but it's still worth a read. It's still a fun read. Let me put you in the timeline here. We're at 8 years after the Battle of Yavin. So it's been 8 years, but to give you an idea, that means we've gone 4 years into the future from the end of Return of the Jedi. So it's been 4 years since the Battle of Endor. It's actually been 4 years since the last book, The Truce at Bakura. So we've skipped 4 years ahead, and now we're talking about this. And in that time, it has been now a year and a half since the New Republic was really established on Coruscant, since the New Republic has taken Coruscant and established themselves as the new major government. Not to say that the conflict with the Empire is completely over. It's certainly not. It's only been 4 years. There's still a lot of conflict going on. There's still a lot of things that need to be figured out. Not just figured out, but there's still a lot of Imperials out there that need to be dealt with, that are trying to hold on to their power. And we'll get into that as this book talk goes forward. That is the emblem for the New Republic. That is the emblem of the time for the New Republic. I know there are other variations on it, but that is the emblem for the New Republic as it was back at this time. And I try and stay true to this original material and not get too sidetracked with other things. All of you know what I mean. Let's talk about the ages of our heroes here. Luke and Leia, the Skywalker twins, are now 27 years old. Remember when we first met them in episode 4 in New Hope? They were just 19. Okay, so it's something to bear in mind here. They're now 27 years old, and they're growing into these roles still, but they've got quite a bit more experience now, and they're not the kids that we sort of see in the slideshow here. I mean, you had this idea that Leia was never a kid. You get that idea from a lot of things, that Leia was just never a kid. But you very much got the impression that Luke was very much a kid. And he may have grown up in Return of the Jedi, but he's grown up more now. Han Solo is 37 years old. 37. Yes, 37 years old. Han Solo, 37 years old. He's still got Chewie with him. And as you can guess, this whole book is about him and Leia. That's as you can guess. Wedge Antilles doesn't show up much in this book, but I still wanted to give you an idea of his age in here just to sort of tie it in, because we're still kind of close to Return of the Jedi and stuff. Wedge Antilles is 29 years old. He's a couple of years older than the Skywalker twins. Again, he doesn't really have a big role in this book. Somebody who kind of much more does is Mon Mothma, and she is now 56, and she is somebody that you will see in this book as a leader, of course. I don't think anybody would expect anything less of Mon Mothma at this point. And she's going to have an interesting role in this book. I won't be talking about it too much, but she will have an interesting role in this book. And then a new character that we're going to introduce, Prince Isolde. Prince Isolde, or Isolde, depending on how you feel like pronouncing it, is a new character, and you may guess we're introducing another male character. He's 25 years old, a couple years younger than the Skywalker twins, so you might guess where that's going. I'm going to try not to tell you too much. Again, I'm trying to tease you into reading these books. Major places that we are going to visit, talk about, that you should know about and bear in mind for this book. The first is Coruscant, which most people pronounced Coruscant at this time. I was really happy with George Lucas's choice for the pronunciation of Coruscant. There's one of the original Ralph McQuarrie concept drawings for Coruscant. There's an interesting little tease in it, but it's probably so small that you guys can't see it. The top of the mountain is there. That's a little reference for you guys. But yes, Coruscant is going to come into play in this book. This is also the book where Dathomir is going to come into play. Not only come into play, but this is the origin of the planet Dathomir. I'll talk more about that as we go, but Dathomir is a major part of this book. One of the things I suggest you do is try and forget what you know about Dathomir and treat this as new. We're also going to introduce Hapes, the Hapes cluster and the planet Hapes in this book. They have not introduced it into any of the other material, any of the newer material, but Hapes is an amazing place, and it is so cool to read about and learn about. And there is the logo for the Hapes Consortium. Wow. That is the logo for the Hapes Consortium. And you guys will get to learn about Hapes as you read this book. And it's not the only time. The Hapes Consortium and the Hapes cluster and the planet Hapes and the people of Hapes are something that you will continue to learn about and have as a part of your world if you read these expanded universe books. And the planet Tula. Now, this planet is not, it's a semi-important part of this book, and I included it just to say that I was including it kind of and mention it, but really, honestly, all it needs is a mention here. Let's talk about our major characters in this book, major characters in relationships. I'd like to talk about the relationships. And the big one of the big ones is Leia and Han. Leia Organa and Han Solo. You remember at the end of Return of the Jedi, they were very starry-eyed for each other and very in love with each other. What happens as 4 years have gone by? Then we have Leia and Prince Isolde. Prince Isolde that you see there in the slideshow. Prince Isolde and Leia Organa. What is their relationship going to be? How are they connected? Is an important part, and a part that I don't want to spoil very much for you. But this connection between Prince Isolde and Princess Leia. And then Luke and Yoda. Of course, not an alive Yoda. Yoda's gone. Yoda is one with the Force now. But Luke and Yoda and their relationship together, and who Yoda was to Luke is the thing that you want to kind of keep in mind here. And then we have Luke and the Queen Mother, who you see in the slideshow here. And I don't want to say a ton. You will get to meet the Queen Mother. You will, over the course of these expanded universe post-Jedi books, you will get to know this Queen Mother. And she will be an interesting personality. You're also going to have an interesting connection between Luke and Isolde. This is one of the more interesting ones, okay? At least for me, the way that Isolde and Luke are connected brings us to an interesting scenario. I'll just say it that way. Okay. Luke and Tenennial Joe. Tenennial Joe is such a cool character, and you are going to get to meet Tenennial Joe, and I want you to see the way that she is connected to Luke Skywalker, the relationship that they have together. There's some wonderful comedy in it, but also Tenennial Joe and her relationship with Princess Isolde. Isolde and Tenennial Joe and their connection is going to become important. You want to make sure that you don't, like, in the beginning of the book, it's not going to seem very important. I'm telling you it's important. I'm telling you that you don't want to ignore their interactions when they first meet. It is important. Okay? It is important. Now, on the next slide, I'm going to spoil a little bit of a thing here on the next slide, and there's really no getting around spoiling it, and it's kind of been spoiled in other material already, but Han Solo is going to have an interesting relationship with this group of people called the Singing Mountain Clan, and it's an odd relationship, I'll say it that way. It's an odd, strange relationship, but it's an interesting relationship. It's a relationship that you will not be able to miss. And there's a bit of the spoiler, but again, I don't feel too bad spoiling that because it's been spoiled in other places already. I'm not going to say too much about it, except to say that image does spoil something, and it'll be spoiled again in this book talk. Some stuff, there's just no getting around spoiling it, and I apologize for having to spoil some stuff. And then another relationship for Han Solo, really Han and Chewbacca. And that's why I have that. I love this art piece of Han and Chewbacca, by the way. It's so well done artistically, and I know it's like an early piece of art. This is set in the Mos Eisley Cantina, and we're far beyond that, but I thought this fit the feel of Han and their relationship, Han and Chewie's relationship with this guy, Warlord Zinj. And what can I say about Warlord Zinj that you can't come up with right from that image? I don't think there is anything. He is exactly what he's being portrayed as. And nothing else needs to be said. Let's talk about some major events that go on in the courtship of Princess Leia. The New Republic is going to meet with another government. This fledgling government trying to come up, still having some issues with the Empire. They are going to meet with another government. Now we've never heard of other governments, but in these first two books, you're going to see that, obviously. I mean, it's a huge galaxy, right? There's going to be other governments out there. We're going to meet one of them in the Truce Epicura, the book that comes before this. And then you're going to meet at least one more. You may want to think of another one as a government. I don't know if it really qualifies, but here in the Courtship of Princess Leia. And we're going to go back, and I'm spoiling a thing, but it's spoiled for like 10 pages, and then you'll get to it. Old school peace talks between these two governments is going to happen, and I'm not going to say a whole lot, but I am spoiling it a tiny bit with that image, with what I mean by old school peace talks. We're going to discover things about a younger Yoda. Now, this is long before all of the modern material that's out there, long before the Disney fan fiction. This is how I refer to Disney's stuff. We are going to see things about a younger Yoda for the very first time. This was the first time stuff about that had been written. We're going to see what happens when Han gets desperate. And there's a bit of a tease or spoiler with that image. Although maybe you can guess from that, maybe you can't. But what happens? What does Han do when he gets desperate about something? We are going to explore that. And then the big spoiler, and again, I couldn't avoid spoiling this. The original Dathomiri Force users, and I thought about using other images, but I'm going to spoil it again coming up here a little bit later, so I may as well spoil it again with this image because I already spoiled it with another image. Let's talk about some more major events. Let's talk about how a witch becomes a Night Sister. That's a term that we've had, but again, you're going to have to kind of scrub your mind of what that term means to you in the modern references, because this is different, and you're going to have to take in what this version of that means. And there is room for both. I will say there is room for both types because of the way things happen. And I think Dave Filoni did what he did in the Clone Wars series on purpose to make room for this version of Night Sisters. Again, I don't want to say too much, but Dave Filoni, if you ever come across this, good job with that. You'll see, and I'm teasing it a little bit, but you'll see what the Empire was doing on Dathomir. The Empire was indeed on Dathomir at this point, and you will indeed see what they are doing on Dathomir. So I don't want to give away too much of that, but you will see what they're doing. And then again with the spoiler, I know I'm hitting you guys over the head with it, but to me it was like the coolest thing. Discovering the origin of a particular species. I'm not going to say what that species is, but you might be able to figure it out at this point. The origin of that species, little tongue-in-cheek there, origin of species. Luke's discovery of some old Jedi stuff. And remember, old Jedi stuff was really a huge mystery at this point. This book was written in 94, 11 years after Return of the Jedi, and there wasn't much talk about old Jedi, about Jedi from the previous government. And I don't mean the Empire. I mean the Republic, which was actually referred to as the Old Republic. And then keep your eye out in this book for Luke's piloting skills as a Jedi. This is going to be a really awesome part of the book. The description is well done. And as I said, not all of this book is written all that well. But it is still a book worth reading. And these things that I've told you are why it's a book worth reading. So that was the book talk on the Courtship of Princess Leia. Our next book talk will be on the first book in the Thrawn 3-book cycle, Heir to the Empire. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching, and I will see you at the next book talk. Have a wonderful rest of your day.